Freaking out, man.
You can't handle the truth. You can't handle the truth.
What do all men in power want? More power.
My name is Luca Zanna. I was an Italian by birth, and I became an American by choice. Our lives and freedoms are in danger. This is not a dream. If you're listening to this broadcasting, you are the resistance.
All systems go.
Welcome to Love, Guns, and Freedom. Here we go, guys. Another Sunday, another show. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna on K-Talks 1340 AM and on United States.fm network. We have a very important show today. I think every show is important. Always try to bring you facts and information to make accurate decisions. As you know, I have no party allegiance. When I became an American in 2005, I didn't pledge allegiance to the Republican Party or to the Democrat Party or Libertarian Party or to a man or to a woman. No. I'm here as a new American who pledged allegiance to this country, to its Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. And more important, also to honesty. I'm not perfect, I'm not a saint, but I tell you, I think we need to try to try to get the best we can, because to have a constitution, if people do not have a basic ethics or morals, it's not going to work. So as I said, even I'm not perfect, I tell you, when it comes to public business, I'm trying to do my best to be objective, and I'm not here to have friends. I don't have this type of stardom, I craving to be friend with the next politicians. Honestly, I couldn't care less. And this is my duty today also, as even I'm not a journalist, I'm just a regular, host of a talk radio show, to try to be honest as possible. That's why I became an independent, that I want to bring here the voices of every politician, every elected officials who wants to run for office or who's already in office, and I want to ask them real questions. I'm not going to be here kissing their butts. And more important, I want to be sure that you, listeners, have the opportunity to know the truth, or at least to know the facts, and then you make up your mind. That's why I also left the Republican Party, because I don't even want to sound like I have any party. I have no party allegiance. My only allegiance is to the truth. My only allegiance to the American people and to its constitution, our Constitution. Now, election time is coming. I am from Mojave County, Arizona. And of course, we have an important election cycle here for the U.S. Senate. Senator McCain is running for re-election. I used to expose McCain when nobody really, when people used to be still supporting him, 2008, 2009, we were kind of a small group here, but still, I don't care. Now the point, finally, most of the people start to see the light. McCain is a globalist. He's a CFR member. It's completely everything but we're supposed to have if you believe in sovereignty, in constitution, and individual rights. This guy is a fascist, is a puppet of the military-industrial complex. And I stop there because I'm not going to say more, because I have my guest now. He's going to say more. But this is not just about McCain. This is about also the type of mafia mentality of the Republican Party, that I really noticed that when we have somebody running against like McCain, they don't let other voices come out, but they just decide before even the election who is going to be the next person. And then they try to shut down everybody else. For example, we have Senator Kelli Ward, Arizona State Senator Kelli Ward, that she's running against McCain. But for some reasons, she does not want to have any debate or any forum, participate to any forum where other candidates are there. And you know what? I know many of you may like Kelli Ward. And guess what? I used to like her too when at the beginning she started. I wanted to give her hope. I wanted to give her credit. I was really hoping that she could be the right person for the work. I have no agenda, as I said. But when I start to see that their voting records, and that's what I'm counting facts on. I'm not just basing on friendships or opinions. I go by the voting records. And unfortunately, also their attitude and their ethics and pretty much their behavior, it wasn't something that I would be proud, but we will talk more about it. And then when I find out that she does not want to participate to open forums where other candidates running for the Republican Party, they want to have a debate, I feel very bad about it. That's why I want to say, first of all, today's show, I want to invite again, already invited officially through her channels, Kelli Ward, Senator Kelli Ward on the show. I know that probably she won't be here, but I still open the door for her. And of course, today I have one of the other candidates that normally the media don't want to talk too much about it, and especially the Republican Party don't let talk too much about it. And is a gentleman that I've really been following a lot, and I think he has a lot of great points. And more important, he did his homework in learning about more what Senator Kelli Ward is about, her voting record. His name is Clair Van Steenwyk. Hopefully I did it right. Claire, are you there?
I'm here. How are you today?
Please, very good. Do me a favor. Say it again, your last name, just to be sure I got it down right for the public.
Van Steenwyk.
Van Steenwyk, perfect. Listen, you're running for U.S. Senate against, of course, McCain, but also you're not the only candidate. I mean, there is also Arizona Senator Kelli Ward running for office. I want to give you the floor, first of all, now. Introduce yourself. What is your background? And let's start to talk why people should vote for you. What really do you have to offer? Go ahead.
My background. I'm a retired business executive from the food industry in California. I was in the basic food industry, marketing and sales and distribution. I did that from the time I was younger. Actually, I started working in dairies when I was a kid, washing bottles and selling bottled milk, actually, as well as delivering milk door to door. I worked there. I worked in other industries, steel industry, oil industry, etc. But I settled in the food business. We did quite well there. I started a couple businesses of my own and sold them. I also owned a property management and development company, and I owned an antique business along with my wife, both a storefront and internet system. We also did an outreach work in California on Hollywood Boulevard, Skid Row. We ran a halfway house, Christian coffee house, and did an outreach to Mexico, to a small village there, bringing food, clothing, and the gospel of Christ to those people. We had radio. We went into the radio after I retired from my regular job. I was asked to do some radio shows, so we did. We did that for about almost 10 years in California, here in Arizona, as well as Florida and Idaho. I had a political talk show here in Phoenix. We did about, I'd say, the majority of people that ran statewide were on our shows, as well as those who ran for federal office. We also had local people, mayors, city councilmen, legislators, etc. We did a fundraiser for the vets at the Wigwam a few years ago. We also held a lot of rallies at the state capitol here on Second Amendment rights, Feet to the Fire, Tea Party rallies, etc. Spoke at a lot of tea parties. That's basically what I've done. I've been active in the GOP since I was a kid. I worked on the Dwight Eisenhower campaign when I was 9 years old.
Wow. Just
handing out, little president books door to door, but it got me started, and I've been active in politics ever since. I've always enjoyed politics. It's just, to me, I wish they really taught civics in school now, so kids could really understand the importance and the responsibility of voting. And I try to educate voters when I have my radio show, and even now when I speak, so they understand the real obligation they have to vote for the right people to keep our country safe, because our military does a wonderful job of keeping us safe, but our elected officials do a terrible job of not only not keeping us safe, but putting us farther into slavery with the increased debts and regulations that they put us on a daily basis. That gives you kind of in a nutshell where I'm at on a lot of things.
Perfect. And I agree with you. Politics is not an abstract concept. Unfortunately, we've been trained by the system to do not get involved. At least apathy, it's one of the biggest weapons against us, because they think that, politics is just some abstract concept. If you ask to the regular young person out there, I don't want to get involved in politics. Guess what? Politics means the food that you're allowed to eat, the freedom that you're going to lose, the right that you have to own property, how much of your money you're going to be confiscated every year by the government. I mean, that's politics, means the way you're going to live as a human being or as a slave. That comes down to right now. It's on the open. Now, back to your campaign. First of all, please give us your website so people can start to check you out while we're talking. Go ahead.
You can reach my website at vanussenate.com, or even vote4van.com. We have two ways of getting there. And you can, once you're there, you can go to the Facebook pages we have and other things. You have a complete, absolute website there. We've got the issues. You've got the whole history about me, issues. There's a facts section where people actually sent me questions and I answered them. We have a blog site on it. We have a statistic calendar counting the amount of debt the state's going into or the country's going into daily. We also have the counter there for illegals and the cost of them on a daily basis. We also have our opponents' records posted on there and a contact button, a donate button, and our events page, of course. But it's a pretty thorough website, and it's also friendly to voters because I encourage comments and input. A lot of the policies I've come up with on the 9 issues I've posted, a lot of that came from people just like you and me. You discuss enough issues with enough people, and you can form ideas and opinions and check them out and see if they'll work. That's what I did in business. I ran companies that you had to fix and upgrade constantly, and this is the same thing. You can't just say, we're going to lock the border down and then we'll figure something out later. You better have a whole policy system figured out, or you're going to lock the border down, maybe, doubtfully, if most people get in office, and we're going to have the same problem within the country that we have now because nobody really wants to deal with the illegals that are here, both the ones who came illegally and the ones who've overstayed either H-1B or H-2B visas or just overstayed visitor visas. There's got to be a formulation to do this, and Congress is the body that's regulated by the Constitution that's supposed to do it. In fact, it's very clear in the Constitution that you're supposed to have a uniform rule of naturalization, and part of naturalization is immigration.
Yep.
And our immigration policy is all over the map. And every private group and agency that wants to have a forum, especially the Chamber of Commerce, has the ear of some politician in Washington.
Claire, this is the reality that we are living now, that I really believe that we are not anymore under Constitution, but we are under corporatism. And of course, the corporations and the international bankers, they are dictating to our government, so they are buying them out directly, and they are planning for a new stage of humanity. I'm sure you're familiar with the word global government. So that's what their goal. I mean, they to create global government, they cannot let borders stay up. That's why this is not happening by accident. It's not happening just in America. It's happening everywhere. And that's why I think people like Mccain, Senator Mccain, I hope everybody understands that this member, as this senator, as also member of the CFR, Council of Foreign Relations, that I'm sure that, there was a lot, I don't know, I'm sure you're familiar about the Council of Foreign Relations, but I would like to remind former Senator Goldwater, he wrote a book with no apology, and I'm just trying to paraphrase it. The Council of Foreign Relations is an international organization with a goal to destroy American sovereignty and create a global government. So this is a fact. So I don't want to spend too much time about McCain, because at this point, honestly, if people don't understand who Senator McCain is, you need to be lobotomized, or you need to get some medication. I mean, nothing we can do here. We're not miracles maker, okay? But I would like to talk more.
John McCain is a globalist. He's also a pawn of the military-industrial complex.
Exactly. So I would like to focus more on give you the opportunity to talk about the voting records of the other 2 candidates, especially Senator Kelli Ward. That normally, I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, she does not really want to appear in forums when you talk. Is it true or not, first of all?
No, that's true. The Scottsdale Tea Party sent an invitation to myself, Kelli Ward, John McCain, and Mr. Molesky, and invited all of us to come to a forum there to speak. She clearly stated in her response that she would not be attending that forum or any other forum. Only forum she would come and speak at would be either with Senator McCain there or by herself.
Wow. The new queen. Listen, I want to say something about Senator Kelli Ward. I have no agenda with anybody, and I wish she was, and she could be the right person, because I don't care. But unfortunately, I need to look at facts, and there are a lot of evidence, by the way, that you did a great job as homework based on voting records that really show that she has so much to hide, and she's hiding a lot. At least she's different from what she's tried to portray herself. For me, my personal experience I had, first of all, I tell you, I have no respect with somebody that is a fake, okay? And I realized that she has a lot of attitude, that she's just another politician in training. And when I saw the situation, it's not just about the weather modification meeting that we had here in Kingman a couple of years ago, where she completely denied the evidence of facts and different type of evidence that we have proven to her, just because she's maybe afraid to be ridiculized or whatever. I see much lack of integrity when it comes down to also to stick with something that's supposed to, she was voted in. And we're talking about voting record. Can you please explain I give you the floor. Give me like 3 points or 2 or 3 points that you want where you can prove that her voting record of Senator Kelli Ward, it is not what she's trying to portray herself. She's not a conservative based on the Constitution, but she's been flip-flopping on some issues, for example, like Common Core. I give you the floor.
Okay, well, like on Common Core, you've got that issue. You had a bill called SB 1038, which laid out the obligations or the duties of the superintendent of education. Kelli went through that bill and lined out things and turned the authority over to the Board of Education, which are basically, to me, a group of appointed czars over education. That bill didn't pass. That was kept from happening. However, then she turned around and negotiated a deal on HB 2184, which was a House bill that had passed, went over to the Senate in her committee. Ward proposed a change in that bill, an amendment, to take 2 of those employees that Superintendent Douglas had fired and transfer them over to the board and allow that to give them supervision over those 2. Even though the statutes in the state codes don't allow that, they worked out a deal to get that done. Now, even though Douglas approved that, and it came out of Ward's committee, she pushed it through the Senate and Diggs got it passed. When it went back over to the House, we stopped it from passing at the House, so that became a dead issue. But once again, it was taking authority away from an elected official and handing it over to an appointed group of czars. Then when Diggs introduced SB 1469, which is a reconciliation budget bill, he entered into that what was actually the former amendment to SB 1038, taking all 11 employees away from Superintendent Douglas and a $1.7 million budget, and taking the board and turning it into a fully funded agency. Kelli Ward and 14 other Republican senators all voted for that.
Wow.
I was at a meeting this morning in Sun City West at the Sun City West Republican group. Superintendent Douglas was there speaking about what she's been doing over the last year and explaining her travels and meetings and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I took the opportunity to inform the group there that the recall effort had failed, and they were glad to hear that. And then I asked her directly about SB 1469, and did she approve the verbiage in there taking her authority away, constitutional authority, away from her by statute of those 11 employees and the $1.7 million budget, and turning the board into a full-blown government agency, which is like a whole other department now.
Wow.
If it's, and government never gets smaller. It always gets bigger. And this department would be run then by appointed people, not elected, which is what the overall idea here is. We don't want elected officials running our education. We want appointed ones. I asked her point blank, do you support that bill? The first few words out of her mouth was trying to explain 2184 and how she capitulated to that, but it didn't turn out the way she thought it was going to. And then her direct denial of ever supporting 1469 and her disapproval of that and how it worked out. Now, we had a state senator sitting at the table with her who I also know voted for that bill. And you could see on her face she didn't appreciate it. But I didn't mention any names, just the fact that she was against the bill. And she was against the bill, and Kelli Ward voted for that bill, which violated the Arizona Constitution and violated Arizona legal statutes as far as obligations and duties of government employees. And also, if you're not an employee of the state government, you have no jurisdiction and cannot manage employees of the state government. And when you hand over 11 of them to the board, when they're not employees, you're in violation of the statutes. I and others had testified in front of Senator Ward's Education Committee, of which she's the chair, and Yee and Allen and I think Smith and Dial were there. And 5 of us were there testifying in front of that committee on just the 2 employees and explaining to them the statutes were wrong, not on their side, and they were violating the Constitution. And I told them point blank that they were the last vestige of hope to uphold the Constitution for the voters of Arizona, and please not to do this, and they did it anyway.
Wow. This is big. This is very big for me. I mean, the focus now, I tell you, McCain, it's we already know. If you're listening to the show, at least if you are aware what's going on, we know that McCain is a problem. It's been a problem for many, many years. But what I'm really concerned...
Yeah, I tried to help J.D. Hayworth get elected in 10 against McCain.
But now the real problem is for me to have another McCain or want to be McCain or somebody that pretty much follow the establishment. Every time the big guys call the shots, she follows. And this is exactly the example. And this is disturbing because it's not only against
that's what scares me.
Yeah. I mean, she's
is having a state senator who's only been, I mean, let's face it, it's a part-time job.
Yeah.
Okay? She's been in office, she was in office sitting in the Capitol maybe 10 months out of 3 years.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you don't do other things away from the office. That's not the point. But to pass this kind of legislation, along with another bill she brought out of her health committee when she was there, to not allow midwives to aid in home birth.
Wow. Interesting.
Okay.
I remember that
Yeah,
one. I remember that one. Yes.
Yeah, well, that was her bill.
Yes.
Now, we stopped it in the Senate. We got Biggs to kill it,
Wow.
explaining to him that if he'd pass it, he was going to lose a whole lot of voters. That was basically it. So you don't want to lose voters, so you don't do it. But this is not someone who's a conservative or someone who's a defender of the Constitution.
And individual rights. That's for me the most disturbing thing. Listen, I have a much more respect for people like, I don't want to use McCain because I have no respect for McCain, okay? But at least I know he's a scum, okay? At least his voting record is on the open. Look at that. He doesn't even try to fake it. You know, he goes to La Raza, he speaks to La Raza, he's trying to pander into illegal aliens, he's completely for the abolishing of our borders, he's completely a warmonger against the Constitution. I mean, if you believe in the Constitution out there, only Congress can declare war, and the last war we really declared according to the Constitution was World War II, excuse me. And after all, we know that exactly this man what he's been doing to our individual rights. National Defense Authorization Act 2012, the destruction of our basic due process, indefinite detention. I mean, this guy is a complete fascist, okay? But we already knew that. Now, what is really more disturbing for me, that this camo politician, I call them camo because they try to camouflage themselves and they try to disguise themselves as something they are not. And when I see Senator Kelli Ward, that she started to run against Common Core, and she was very much for individual rights, property rights, and the Constitution, and she wrapped herself around the flag, and then I see her voting record, I start to puke, seriously. And I have completely losing respect. And I give you another example, okay? Because I really believe it's something that runs probably into the family. And now, since her husband is a politician too, is elected as the chairman of the Republican Party in Mojave County, I start to see there is a big problem here. I start to smell when people want to run for office, not because they want to do the public thing, the res publica, but they want to pretty much have ambition of power. And I smell so much ambition of power. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And
the love of power, you know, the Bible says the love of money is the root of evil. You can take that word, the love of money, the love of power, the love of influence, the love of status, is the root of evil.
Yeah,
and it is.
I'm sorry, a lot of people there, they're desperate to find somebody to defeat McCain. I understand. I'm with you guys. I used to be exposing McCain when people used to throw tomatoes at me in 10 years ago, 6 years ago. I mean, but the point is, now we must understand, let's not stuck with the same problem. Let's not just be eating the same goop that the Republican Party is trying to feed us. Senator Kelli Ward, is not the only opportunity that we have to replace McCain. And that's why I am disturbed when I see the Republican Party don't let other people, at least, they already made up their mind. I see that they already made up their mind. In Washington, she already got the endorsement. It seems like almost she already pretty much been selected. Don't you have that feeling?
You see, look at what they do there is, I've been told over the years I should have run for a state job or a county job and worked my way up.
Yeah.
And what they really mean by that, like a few people have walked around saying that she's the most qualified. I don't agree with that just on the level of understanding the Constitution or her voting record. But I understand what that means. The definition of that, when politicians tell you this other politician is the most qualified, what they really mean by that, the definition that I've come to realize is they've already proven they'll do what the party tells them to do.
Exactly.
See, I'm not a known commodity. Most of them know I won't go along with the games they play. When I did my radio show, I used to expose a lot of Republicans, and I upset a lot of the Republican Party because of it. And they used to say, you need to not do some of this. You're creating division. And I said, if they'd tell the truth, I wouldn't have to do this.
Yeah.
I said, to me, I've got a responsibility to make sure voters know what these people are really doing.
Exactly. And I say, today the focus, people wants to find out more about you I really want you to go to the website, and I don't want to. The focus for me now is to give you a voice to also talk about other candidates that they are running against you for the same seat of Senator McCain, but unfortunately people, they are not aware. And I think unfortunately Senator Kelli Ward is the person that she's getting some sort of a privilege highway here to go to that place, and we've not been given other opportunities to listen to other voices. That's why
your Republican groups and LDs, we've tried to get a hold of most of them and get to speak at some.
Yeah.
We've been able to speak at about 2/3 of the one in Maricopa County. We've been up to Prescott, and we've been to Payson. But for the most part, you got to remember, 14 of the Republican senators voted with her on this bill.
exactly.
They don't really want to have someone like me coming to their LDs and their Republican groups in their counties and talking about this, because they're as guilty as she is.
Yeah. No, I tell
And
you.
this is a good old boys and girls club. If you're not on the inside, they don't want you exposing what they're doing.
Exactly. And this is why one of the reasons, I tell you, I left the Republican Party. Of course, I invite people to stay in and change the machine from within. But for me, it was different, of course. I have a radio show, and I don't want to be any more connected to any party. That's my personal situation. But yeah, it's a mafia. It's a mafia in both parties. I mean, the Democrats, they're doing the same. All parties, they are controlled by the same globalist. And and they've been, bribing and giving special advantages for the people, to the people that they're going to play game. And that's what really I'm concerned. Now, there is so much I would like to ask you. And before we go ahead, I want to ask you some basic important things. First of all, if you get elected and you can make it to Washington, okay, what is your position on, first of all, the Patriot Act and the National Defense Authorization Act of 2012? Do you support these unconstitutional bills or not?
I don't support either one of them, never have.
Okay.
I don't support GATT. I don't support NAFTA. I don't support the treaty agreements Obama just made.
Okay.
None of that.
Very good.
Or
Now,
the CISPA agreement, the Central Intelligence Permission to Spy on Us, cyber intelligence, I don't support that either.
Perfect. I understand. I want to cover as much as I can. We don't have much time. Second question. You know that already now in California, there is a mandatory vaccinations for all the children who want to attend any school, public or private. And now there is a bill from a congresswoman from Florida who wants to make mandatory vaccines to every child in America. What is your position on forced vaccinations?
No.
Very
That's
good.
the right of the parents to raise their children.
Yeah.
I call it the People's Republic of China, or of California.
Yeah.
I lived there. It didn't used to be like it is now. It's unfortunate because it's still, the climate is still nice, the beaches look good. But the state itself is in total chaos and disaster. It's out of control, as are most states in this country, honestly, if you really look at some of the stuff they're passing.
I understand. This is very important because I know about the vaccines. I don't have any voting record about that because we didn't really vote on that in Arizona with Senator Kelli Ward. But I have found some posts on Facebook where people were asking, and she seemed like she was in favor of vaccines. I would like to double check that. But if people has more proofs, did you hear anything about Kelli Ward on vaccines?
No, I think, I'll be honest with you, from my observations of most politicians, it will depend on what way the wind's blowing.
So probably that.
Kind of like with you had that meeting with Ms. Ward and the environmental people of Arizona.
Yes,
up in
yes.
Kingman.
I was going to talk about that. Yes,
I
go
believe
ahead.
that meeting was basically to find out how many people would show up at it, to see what kind of a political backing they really had when they didn't see what they wanted. I mean, to bring people up there that had no authority or no ability to do anything was a waste of time. And for Mr. Gozar not to do anything is also disrespectful to voters.
Yes, and I'm telling you.
Geoengineering, a.k.a. chemtrails, is something that needs to be looked into. The citizens of this country have a perfect right to figure out or find out why that's going on and what it really is. There needs to be studies that are scientifically done, so whatever's going on in the bodies of those peoples, whatever accumulation of aluminum or bicar or whatever they've got in their body, they need to know where that's coming from and why.
Exactly. One thing is very disturbing. We have proof and evidence, for example, where the government, in the last 50 or 60 years at least, they've been testing on civilians and, of course, also militaries, people without our consent. Let's not forget, for people who deny the government will never do that, in Mojave County, we have the Mojave County downwinders, people who are still dying of radiation, and now finally Congress is paying some, little bit of charity money just to give you the money to put your little tomb and your little burial. So the point is now, how many times we need to prove that? And I have here, I've proven with documents, official government documents. For example, the state of Arizona on the website, and I post that on lovegunsfreedom.com. We have a website from the state of Arizona, the .gov website, where anybody can download an application where you can ask a permit, pay for $100. You have a permit to somehow do weather modification activities in your area. And when I see documents from the Senate, for example, there are documents from the 1965 where they were talking about the danger and the morality and also how to sell it to the public about weather modification. So when I find somebody like Senator Kelli Ward who says that, according to the several articles, I do not believe in weather modification. I do not believe in chemtrails. This is not about faith. You know, I believe about faith. It's another thing. It's a dogma. This is about science. It's about evidence.
Yeah, science is provable.
You know, it's also facts. I mean, evidence. Well, all you have to do, look at the sky. But when you see documents from all the government and the federal government, and they try to hide it from us, this is disturbing because she's not even elected and she's already playing game. Think about it. That's the most disturbing thing. At least Mccain has an excuse. He's been doing the scumbag job for 40 years. Okay, she's not even started it and she's already playing game. So I really say it's an insult to intelligence when somebody doesn't even want to talk about the evidence that we have here. And when people say, hey, we have bigger problems than weather modification, guess what? When you understand what you're breathing, when you understand the level of chemicals and germs that we are being so abused and how people are reacting to this is something about death or life. You know, we can talk about taxes all you want, but when I'm dead, what am I going to do about that? Seriously.
Nothing. The reality is the first form of government, or the first obligation of government, is to protect its citizens.
Exactly. So
Period.
I tell you, I'm glad you're running against Senator Kelli Ward and against McCain, of course, because we need more and more different voices. I want to give you 60 seconds, whatever you want to say, your website, and whatever you want to say. Go ahead.
Well, I hope all the voters who listen to this understand what I'm trying to do. I am running for the U.S. Senate. My name is Clair Van Steenwyk. We have a website, vanussenate.com. That's vanussenate.com. You can find out all the information you need to about me there. I'm a constitutional candidate who's also a fiscal and social conservative. I have a record of being on the air, broadcasting, doing rallies, etc. for years. I am not new to this game, but I am not well liked by many in the GOP because I will not take and will not play the little games they want to play with everybody. I'm not looking for a career. I retired from a very good one. I'm looking to fix our government for myself, your generation, and my children and grandchildren, and hoping someday someone will step up and take my place. We cannot afford another senator in state government or federal government that does what the parties want them to do. Mr. Ryan just proved that once again, and here's my case on that. Mr. Ryan's not the only one that needs to be replaced. Anybody that voted that man into authority needs to be replaced right with him. I can think of at least 4 congressmen in this state that need to be removed from office, including the one district I live in. We've got to start standing up for ourselves. An informed electorate is what they're afraid of. And they have gotten complacency by promise. They program people to be complacent. They've got over 50% of the American public that doesn't vote, and the rest of them are almost like trained seals. Start looking at issues. This is not a baseball game. This is real life. We've got to start voting for people, supporting people both physically and financially that are serious about this and want to change this country back to what it was, say, when I was a kid or my father was. We've had several thousands and thousands of people die for us to give us our freedoms. We deserve to give them back the respect they gave us by being informed voters and not acting like this is just a game. It's our lives we're talking about here, and not just ours, it's generations to come. I want to thank Luca for giving me the time to come on the show today. I want to thank all of you for listening, and help us all you can in any way you can. Let other people know about us, and we're waiting to get invited outside of Maricopa County, and we'll travel anywhere you want us to come, and that includes a barbecue in your backyard. God bless you, and thank you for the time.